It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Okay. We're back. You know, we're in our third segment of the morning. We're in the midst of a storm here. A literal storm. A snowstorm. Ice storm. But the storm is also raging around us everywhere. And it's raging around us everywhere in every facet of our lives. Those of you who say, I'm not interested in politics, I don't really care about that, I got to tell you, the storm is affecting you. Even though you think you don't have an interest in it, that it doesn't bear down on you. It does. It's affecting all of us equally. And you ignore it at your peril. You've been given and fed a modern-day Trojan horse. You know, it's like poison in your food. And you're so doggone hungry that you're going to eat it anyway, despite the risk. It's like the man in the desert who's dying of thirst, and he finds a pool of water, and there's bones laying all around the pool, and the old sign in there that says, danger, tainted, poison. And he drinks it anyway. It's like the man on board of a rowboat, far out at sea, shipwrecked, alone, no land in sight, no rain, no food, no water. And he hasn't had anything to drink in days. And his throat is parched. And he begins to look at all that water around him. And even though he knows that to take that water in will cause him harm, he does it anyway. The lies that we hear every single day are destroying us. And there's no one in the media who's willing to say to us, stop, don't drink the water. There's very, very few left. The media has so capitulated into being the mouthpiece, the megaphone for this administration, and our decline in political liberty and freedom, and human liberty and freedom, that we, at this stage in the game, you almost can't trust anything that you hear. Not even from me. You've heard me say 1,000,000 times that I don't want you to believe what I say. I want you to go out there and do your own homework, do your own due diligence, seek out information on your own. Don't accept that what I say is some paragon of the truth. My job is only to awaken you and give you that first bite of food. But I don't have any magic crystal ball. I'm willing to look at things, though, as they are, and I'm willing to admit what I see. I'm willing to admit what my eyes see and not pretend that I'm standing there because everyone else wants to try to pretend that the king is not wearing clothes, that the elephant in the room is not standing on our feet. It is. And I'm willing to look at it in truthfulness and say, I see a problem here. But my goal is only to give you the tools and give you the skills and give you the information that should make you hungry to learn more on your own. Frankly, that's what the media is supposed to be doing, and they're not. You know, there's a woman out there. Her name is Sharyl Attkisson. And she is a reporter and has been a reporter for many years. And she's probably one of the last few, I should say, true investigative journalists out there. Recently, she works for CBS, by the way, which is, you know, the communist broadcast system as far as I'm concerned. And she's not very well liked over there, but, you know, she's she's been there a long time. She wields some power. I got to tell you, you know, Sharyl Attkisson, she's done a number of investigative journalist stories that really got under the skin of this administration. But lately, she's been paying a price. And this is an example of what's happening in the media across the board. First of all, her computer was hacked on multiple occasions. And CBS actually had to go out there and do some pretty significant forensic research to figure out what had occurred. But somebody's been hacking into her computer. And they didn't steal her credit card information. And they didn't steal her identity. So it wasn't someone who was doing it for profit. That really only leaves, ladies and gentlemen, one culprit. She has been blackballed by this administration because she has been very, very aggressive about pointing out their failures. But lately, she's been being blocked. She's been complaining about restrictions being placed on the media, and rightly so. And the media, of course, you know, has been very, has really ultimately failed to do their job. And now it's becoming apparent to everyone. Everyone's looking at the media and saying, well, why didn't you tell us what was going on here? Just recently, some 25 or 30 different organizations, all media organizations, you know, ABC News, the Associated Press, CBS, CNN, Dow Jones, Fox News, Gannett, all of these companies came forth and they wrote out the National Press Club, and they wrote a letter to Jay Carney, the press secretary at the White House, complaining about the fact that they've been barring access to photographers who cover the White House. Because what the White House has been doing is barring these news media organizations from taking photographs of the president. Instead, he's been using the internal official photographer and then only supplying the media with those images. And, of course, they're always designed to make the president look best. And they're writing this letter to protest the limits that are being placed on their photographers gaining access to the White House. The problem is that they've really missed the mark. What they should be protesting is the fact that the White House is protecting and defending and covering up and blocking them from having access to the information in order to truly report. Unfortunately, the vast majority of them are so embroiled and so wrapped up and so surrounded by their own actions of betrayal to the American people in terms of the job they're supposed to do, that they really don't want to address that because that's something they could have controlled all along. You know, Sharyl Attkisson is what the media should be. She's the kind of person that we look at in the media, and she, you know, epitomizes that which we would consider to be an investigative journalist. She is vociferous and very, very, you know, she is tenacious. She goes out there and really digs deep to find the truth. And she is utterly fearless, which is one of the reasons why, frankly, she is under the gun here. I mean, she really is under the gun. She's actually put out a recent article where she is, you know, really holding this administration accountable. She was the one who came out and beat up very heavily on healthcare.gov. But now they've shut her out. She's the one who was out there digging into the internal emails. She's the one who has broken the news on, you know, what was going on with the EPA and other organizations. She was the one who broke out real deep analysis on the Benghazi issues. But you see, they're going to make an example out of her because they're utilizing intimidation to shut down the media. There's two hands that this White House uses. One is the carrot. And that's the offer that if you say what we want you to say and you do what we want you to do, we're going to reward you potentially with a position within the administration where you can work as a press secretary or you can maybe be some type of a media person. And there's lots of people that want that. I mean, it's a cake job, and it comes with a lot of reward. The other hand is holding a stick. It's the old carrot and the stick routine. And the stick side of things is if you get out of line and you talk bad about us, we're going to whack you with this hard, repeatedly. And the truth is, when it comes to Sharyl Attkisson, they actually went down there and hacked into her computer. No one knows who is responsible. But who is responsible didn't do it for monetary gain. She was the one who, you know, talked about Benghazi, Fast and Furious, and Solyndra. And even CBS, her parent, her employer, doesn't like her. Back in 2012, she was hacked into her computer. But if nobody took anything from that computer that could be used as and they did a lot of very heavy forensic investigation to prove that someone had hacked into her computer, not once but multiple times. She's been about, you know, one of the only mainstream reporters out there really, you know, beating the bushes. The other folks out there, listen, even the conservatively loved Fox News is not really out there in many cases. You know, you hear these pundits, the Hannitys and the O'Reillys and the Ingrams and the what have you. But what they do, and if you listen to what they're talking about, it's more like the calming influence of your pastor or your father than it is a investigative journalist breaking the news. And there's something wrong with that. I mean, I get that they want to evaluate and analyze everything to the nth degree. But if they're not really telling you the truth about what's happening, and they constantly give the benefit of the doubt to the other side, well, we don't want to rush to judgment. You don't have to rush to judgment. What you do have to do, if you're going to be in the media and you're going to be intellectually honest, what you do have to do is you have to open up the question and allow it to be asked. And they're not doing that. They're providing cover instead of exposing. And then we wonder why America is low information. I mean, CNN the other day came out and said, you know, the problem is that our audience is falling. And by the way, it has been dramatically. But the problem is that people don't want hard news anymore. They want stories. And so we're going to do more like we did this Blackfish, which was a special they did about orca whales, you know, killer whales. Well, with all due respect, we have reached a point in time in our republic where all of those special interest stories that aren't related to what's going on around us are more distraction than help. But maybe it's intended that way. It's one of the reasons why I want to create an organization that tells a news story, but we're never going to talk about orca. And we're never going to tell you about the cat in the tree. And we're not going to tell you about whether or not some school blocked Christmas songs. That's not what this is about. You know, we don't have their resources. If you can help us, by all means, please step up to the plate because we desperately need it. Everything that I do is voluntary here. I don't get paid to do this, and, you know, what have you. I pay for it out of my pocket. And trust me, all of the effort and time and energy and cost of this doesn't come free. But the truth is, America is thirsting like the man in the boat for truth. They are thirsting for the real motivations behind these people. You don't have to be an investigative reporter to look around you and see what's going on and speak of it with truth. Point out where this is wrong or that's wrong. You know, I did a show the other day about the Second Amendment. How the House the other day, on a voice vote, extended the plastic gun ban. The whatever they call it, Undetectable Firearm Act. Where's the media on that? I mean, they mention it, but none of them are really delving into the true issue, which is, since when does Congress think they have the ability to regulate that which the Constitution tells us they can't? Instead, they hand you a few interviews they do with some congressman who makes it all sound reasonable. It's not reasonable. And none of them are telling you, and now it's going to go to the Senate, and already Chuck Schumer and Dianne Feinstein are scheming and conniving to figure out how they can write amendments to it to send it back. And then it will become law. It's the nose underneath the camel's nose underneath the edge of the tent. It's the foot in the door. If you think I'm over-guesstimating this, if you think that I'm making more out of it than it is, if you think I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, only time will prove me right or wrong. But I ask you to keep your eyes on this. I ask you to keep your eye on what's going on with this, because I'm telling you right now that this undetectable firearm Act will be manipulated. The reason why they want guns out of your hands is because, quite frankly, that's the only means that you have at this point of defending yourself. In our last segment, I read you that quote from Winston Churchill. Still, if you will not fight for the right when you can easily win without bloodshed, like now, if you will not fight when your victory will be sure and not too costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance of survival. Without firearms, there may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it will be better to perish than to live as a slave. But you're not told any of that. You're told, be calm. Don't worry. We're watching. We're paying attention for you. We're taking care of this. I got to tell you, folks, we're fast coming to the point where none of this is going to matter. And I point directly at the press as being one of the major. Look, I expect people in power to continue to abuse us for their own personal gain. I expect that. That's what politicians do. That's what people in power do. And they never give it up voluntarily. But I don't expect the watchdog, my watchdog, to lick the hand of the burglar as he approaches the home, hold the door open for him, and show him where the jewels are. Unfortunately, that's where we are. And that's what's happening. Your media, your mainstream media, is no longer telling us the truth. They're never telling us news. What they are giving us is pabulum, chalk. They're giving us seawater instead of fresh water. They're leading us to the poison spring in the midst of the desert. And they're saying, go ahead and drink. You've been listening to America's Voice. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to tackle our last story. That's going to be the issue of, if you believe that there is some solution here in 2014 and 2016, well, you may be mistaken. We'll be right back.